All right, today we're diving deep into the heart of Oaxaca, Mexico, to uncover the incredible story of the Zapotec people. We're talking about a civilization whose traditions have been echoing through time for literally thousands of years. So, you've probably heard of Guelaguetza, right? You picture this amazing, world-famous festival full of color, music, and dance, a huge performance. But what if I told you that what you see on stage, that's just scratching the surface of something way, way older and more profound? Because the real Guelaguetza, it isn't a show. It's a social contract. It's a promise of mutual support that has been the glue holding Zapotec communities together for centuries upon centuries. To really understand that promise, we've got to look past the modern-day festival and dig into the historical record, which, let me tell you, tells a completely different story. And check this out. This document right here is from 1576, just a few decades after the Spanish arrived. It's a huge clue. In it, colonial officials are describing Guelaguetza, but they don't call it a festival or a party. They call it an ancient uso y costumbre, a use and custom. They recognized it as something that was already deeply embedded in Zapotec society. Okay, so if it's not a festival, what is it? Let's get right to the heart of what this powerful social system is all about. At its core, Guelaguetza is a system of reciprocity. It's this beautiful, complex web of mutual support that makes sure nobody in the community gets left behind. You can almost think of it like a community-wide insurance policy, where the currency is trust. And this quote from a historical source, it just paints such a vivid picture of how it all worked. People would just help each other. It wasn't about payment, it was about showing up. When it was your turn to harvest your crops, the community was there. When it was their turn, you were there for them. Simple as that. So it all kind of breaks down into three main categories. First, you've got gifting, for big life events like a wedding. Then there's shared labor for things like farming or building a house. And finally, there's community service, which they call tequio, where everyone chips in on projects that benefit the whole town. But that begs the question, right? How do we know for sure these traditions are so ancient? Well, the answer isn't just in those colonial papers. It's literally carved in stone in the ancient Zapotec writing system. I mean, the Zapotec script is one of the earliest writing systems in all of Mesoamerica. We're talking examples showing up around 500 BCE. For centuries, they used it to record their history and mark important dates, long before the writing system was eventually replaced. For a long, long time, these famous stone carvings from Monte Albán were called los danzantes, the dancers. But we now know that's not what they are at all. It's actually a much grimmer story. These are captured enemies, prisoners of war, who were tortured and sacrificed. Their names are sometimes carved right there next to them. This was writing used as a display of power. Now, if you compare it to the more famous Maya script, you can see it had its own unique style. It was written in single columns from top to bottom, and it's thought to be mostly logographic, meaning one symbol stood for a whole word or idea, not just a sound. That's actually one of the big reasons why it's so hard to decipher today. So that creates a real puzzle, doesn't it? If we can't fully read these ancient stone carvings, how on earth do we know so much detail about their social customs, like Guelaguetza? Well, the answer is just brilliant. It comes from a historical approach called the New Philology, which basically uncovered a different kind of Zapotec writing, hiding in plain sight. Here's what happened. After the Spanish conquest, Zapotec scribes learned the Latin alphabet, and they started using it to write in their own language. And they wrote down everything. Suddenly, we have access to all these everyday documents, wills, land claims, petitions, even marriage contracts. They give us this unbelievably detailed picture of their lives, in their own words. And what's so amazing is that you can see them navigating this new colonial world in real time. In this will from 1720, a young Zapotec woman is describing her fancy silk dress, and she just casually drops in the Spanish term for lace, punta de Castilla, right into her Zapotec testament. This isn't a story of a culture being erased, it's a story of a culture adapting and surviving. So let's bring it all together now. We've got the silent stones on one hand, and these incredible, vivid voices from the colonial archives on the other. And this, right here, this is the key. The Zapotec writing system carved on those giant monuments, it eventually disappeared. But the social system, that fundamental promise of community and reciprocity, that never went away. The spirit of Guelaguetza just kept going. It was passed down through generations. And today, it is still the bedrock of Zapotec community life. They practice it in ways you can totally recognize from those descriptions written hundreds of years ago. So when we look back at this document from 1576, we're not just looking at some dusty old piece of history. We are looking at the blueprint for a vibrant, living culture that is still thriving on that very same promise of taking care of one another. And that kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? The Zapotec people have kept their ancient promise alive for centuries. It makes you wonder, what are the ancient promises that our own communities were built on? And how well are we doing at keeping them?